Hey there folks. So the last little bit that I want to do now around our jumping functionality, we already have our character going into the jump, we have them falling, but I want to look at how we can integrate this landing. Now what we've got so far is when we press the spacebar, we jump up, and then you see we do fall, so he goes into a different animation as he starts coming down, and also when we drop off a ledge, he'll go straight into that falling. Now, just because that was obviously already stuck and we weren't going to the landing, just show you that when we fall off, straight into the landing, not going through the jump at all. So how do we actually go about doing the landing? Well, one of the things that we can do is that we could set up transition rules. And I just want to show you an example of a transition animation. I'm not going to actually use it. I think I'm going to use a jump node again because I find they're just more useful for this. But just to show you what I mean, you can see that we're going to go from falling down into our walk. And I want to actually say, well, if I am moving, I want to be going down into there. Maybe if I'm idle, I want to go into there. And if I'm not in the air anymore, I want to go down to there. So let's just double click onto the transition rule. And actually it might be useful to go to the one where I've got all the different rules just copied out and think, well, we want to go if we are not in the air. Now this is in air. So this is why I phrase them like a question when I'm first getting started with, learning these things and teaching these things. If you phrase it like a question, it helps you to understand what does true mean to you. So if this is true, it's because the character is in the air. Well, I actually want to know when they're not in the air. So what I need to do here is actually need to go and look for a not ball. And what this is going to do is it's going to return the opposite. It's going to look and say, well, what if this is actually not true? So it was false, and return that as true instead. So here you can see that I'm basically saying if my character is not in the air, then we will be allowed to transition. Well, that's nice and easy. We just go back from here and we should be able to go there into our walking. There you go. So we've got some transitions. We're not going directly into idle. We need to potentially have the exact same thing again. So what I'll do, copy those, go back and go into idle. And yeah, this could work. I'm probably going to need some extra stuff that says on the movement. So this would be maybe needing an extra rule that says if speed is equal to 0. But you can see we can jump up and we can go back into our existing states and we can move around. And now that might be enough for you. That might be all you need in order to get your character going around. But what if you have got a landing animation? Even if you've just got a crouch animation, and this actual asset pack that I've got here, it even puts it as crouch/land, because you could use an animation like this just for a very quick frame, just to loop in. Now this is one where potentially my character is going to drop down to avoid things or shoot from a lower vantage point. So what we're going to do here is we're going to jump back and I'm going to look at this and say, well, can I put in a transition animation in here? So when I'm doing this from here to here, I'm going to play a single animation that just plays once, non-looping. So I need to tick the use transitional animations, which you can see changes the icon. I'm going to open up my animation graph and I can change this to be land. Now something you will know about my land animation if you look into it, it's 8 frames per second, 3 frames here, so it's long enough for us to be able to see it appear. It's not a single frame, it's at least got a little bit of frames and a little bit slower, so we should be able to see this playing. And I'm actually just going to put it into both of these just so that we can see what this looks like. Okay, so we can jump up and we've got nothing, but there we go. If we jump from a certain height, it now seems to be triggering. It seems to be triggering every single time when we're coming down from there, but not every single time when we're moving around. So there are some issues here with how this is working. And you can go in there, you can tweak that and you can work out exactly what it is that's stopping. But what I really want to do is just to add a little bit more to this. I'm going to look at another to jump node. Now I'm going to go back to my character, and we've already looked at the on jumped, we've got the on walking off ledge, and we've also got the on landed. And what on landed does is you can see when we go from falling and we hit the floor, we're going to trigger this with a hit result. Yeah, so it's going to be brilliant because it's going to actually tell us what we've just hit as well, what we've just landed on. We could use this for damage functionality later to damage things that we've just dropped down on top of. We could look at the direction and the angle that we've hit on stuff. But for now, let's just go and take this to jump node, paste it out, and this one is going to be, you guessed it, to landing. Now, I haven't actually created this in the animation blueprint yet, so let's take the name this time from here, go into our animation blueprint, back a step, and let's add in a jump node. Let's give it the name that we've just copied, to landing, and we're going to say let's go into here. Yeah, and then that's going to allow us to go into the landing animation first. So here we go, on landing. And now what we can do is we can say, well, that's only going to play once. It's not a looping animation. And we can now go from here to wherever we want to go. So this might be where actually you put it something like this, and maybe you determine what can I land into. Maybe I want to go landing directly into the idle. Yeah, so here, this would be just saying whether I've got a certain amount of animation left. Now this one here, you can see I can't copy the time remaining one because it's the one that came from the previous. So you'd have to do it here and say time remaining, and we're basically looking for it and saying if there is less than, and we'll go with less than 0.05 of that time remaining, then let's go into the next one. And maybe we also say if speed is equal to 0. Yeah, so we can do an and bool here, and we can say if both of these things are true, if that animation has stopped and we have 0 speed, then let's go into the landing. There you go, and he plays our landing animation. This is where it's useful just to slow down the landing animation, put an extra couple of frames in, just to make sure that it definitely triggers. What about if we are moving? Well, when we're moving, same thing again, we'll take another step back and we'll say, well, actually we want to go from landing into walking. And this might be where you think, well, why are we doing this? We could have loads of extra arrows for this, but this could be where those transitional rules are actually becoming quite useful, because this one is saying, well, let's just do this little crouch. But what if we actually needed to have a bit of a roll in here? Maybe we need to have a decision that says if we're moving, maybe we slide across the floor. Yeah, so I'm actually going to take this logic that we've just done, take a step back and go into this one. And what we'll do this time is we'll say if my speed is greater than 0, well, then we are allowed to go there. And this should mean that now I can walk and land. And the only problem we got here is that he's going to slide on that animation. And he's sliding on that animation just because of how long that animation's playing for. So again, this might be where you have a little bit of a play with that and just see what's the speed that this is playing at. I've got this playing quite slowly in terms of getting that done. There you go. And yeah, maybe he needs to go over this and go into a different animation. Maybe I want to go into my rolling animation if I'm rolling in there, because you can see I've actually got a rolling animation in here somewhere. Where was it? There it is. So yeah, what I could do is I could go and roll into this one instead. So yeah, I could do that. And the other thing you could do is you could actually say that when you land, you could actually get the logic here, and you can make a determination between whether you should use one or the other and which one of these you should jump to. Or in your animation blueprint, if I take a step back, we're going into landing here. What we could do is we could make a determination based on whether we should go from one animation to another, and we could have our landing animation or our rolling animation based on whether that speed is greater than a certain amount. So if our speed is greater than a certain amount, maybe it plays roll. If it's not, maybe it plays landing. But you can see there's lots of different options, and what we've now got is we've got the ability to basically track when our player has, or our character has jumped, when they've fallen off a ledge and gone straight into falling, when they've landed on the floor. And just by using these jump to nodes, we're able to define exactly where we go in the animation blueprint logic. We can jump specifically to a node, a point in our logic, and go, yes, I know that we're in our idle or our walking or our locomotion state, but I want to go straight to this and do this instead, which lets lots of the system logic here make the determinations of when and where we travel through. And just by having that should give you enough to basically start exploring a whole bunch of different character animation things. I've obviously got a whole bunch of different things here. I've actually got a falling option here, but I've got things like falling, landing, jump start, jump loop. This jump loop actually would work really nicely as an apex before we go into falling. I've got loads that I can start playing around, and everything that's there is really kind of, it's looping continuous movement animation. Things such as our dead, death, and attack, they're kind of like one-off fire and forget animations. So that's the thing that we're going to start coming back to look at next. How we can actually take those pieces of logic and just fire a piece of animation once over the top of everything, like a 3D animation montage, and then obviously go back to wherever we were in our animation logic. But for now, that should give you a lot to do ground locomotion with. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider subscribing to access more of my Unreal Engine content.